Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Daniela, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be giving this talk as part of an astrobiology course. I usually give talks all over the world. This is actually the first time I'm giving a talk for astrobiology students, so I'm very pleased to be here with you today electronically. So my name is Daniela de Paulis. I am an artist. I am a licensed radio operator. I'm also part of the IAA International Astronautical Association SETI Permanent Committee. SETI means Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And I've been part of this committee for the past 9 years. So I've been following very closely the development in SETI research, and this has been very influential in my work as an interdisciplinary artist. Today I'm going to talk about my most recent project called A Sign in Space. And this project has been launched 9 months ago, and we are now experiencing and seeing how difficult it might be to interpret an extraterrestrial message. And thus the title, The Challenges of Interpreting an Extraterrestrial Message, and you will soon know why. This is a very large international project that I've been developing since 2018. So it took me about more than 4 years to make this project possible. And I brought together several organizations to develop this project, including the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, the Italian Institute for Radio Astronomy, the SETI Institute, and through their SETI Artists in Residency program, the European Space Agency, and a team of specialists from around the world who helped in composing a simulated extraterrestrial message. I think the best way to talk about this project is actually to show this trailer, which has some really beautiful images about the various locations involved in the project.
It is unlikely we are alone. Frank Drake started the search for extraterrestrial intelligence here in this very room. We have been looking ever since. But what happens when we finally hear them? We'll know soon enough. My name is Daniela de Paulis. I'm artist in residence at the Green Bank Observatory and at the SETI Institute in the United States. I'm collaborating with an international team of SETI researchers and the European Space Agency for the interdisciplinary project A Sign in Space. The objective of the project is to involve the worldwide search for extraterrestrial intelligence community, professionals from different fields, and the broader public in the reception, decoding, and interpretation of a simulated extraterrestrial message. This process will require global cooperation, bridging a conversation around the topics of SETI, space research, and society across multiple cultures and fields of expertise. Sometime this year, the European Space Agency's Trace Gas Orbiter spacecraft will transmit a simulated extraterrestrial message that I composed in collaboration with an international team of specialist advisors. The message will be received by radio telescopes on Earth. A Sign in Space addresses the challenging questions surrounding the possible detection of an extraterrestrial signal and alien life, in the effort to prepare humans for such a profound discovery.
Okay, so you saw in the videos the various facilities, the Green Bank telescope, the Allen Telescope Array, the Medicina radio antenna that were the 3 radio antennas that received the simulated extraterrestrial message that was transmitted by the Trace Gas Orbiter on the 24th of May 2023. So just 9 months ago. The title of the project is inspired by a short novel contained in the Cosmic Comics, which is a collection of short stories by Italian novelist Italo Calvino. And I chose this title because the novel is a very interesting description of what could be considered as the first what Calvino considered to be SETI, perhaps. It doesn't refer to SETI directly, but Calvino, as a writer, was very inspired by science, especially the novelty of science in his time. And he wrote this story in the early 60s, just during the first stages of SETI research. So it is possible that this short story was inspired by the newborn science of SETI. And in the novel, Calvino describes the very first being living in the whole cosmos. It is, of course, a very surreal, very humorous thought experiment in which this fictional being, tired of its loneliness, decides at some point to draw the very first sign in the emptiness of the cosmos. And after many millions of years, finally, this mysterious being sees other signs appearing in the cosmos, meaning that finally she's not alone any longer. So I thought this was a really beautiful, poetic, humorous description of our quest for looking for other cosmic inhabitants, our cosmic neighbors. So we continue asking ourselves, are we alone? And we haven't found an answer to this really profound question. In the kind of general media scenario that we are accustomed to, the most common science fiction films, for example, or science fiction literature, the common scenario is that if we ever received an extraterrestrial message, there will be one scientist, a brilliant scientist, who will eventually find the interpretation of this message. This is the scenario, for example, of the film Contact. Another film which describes such a scenario is Arrival. And even the three-body problem. Here you see the Chinese cover from 2008 and translated in 2014 in English. So in these very popular science fiction scenarios, we see that the dominant narrative is that a message from an extraterrestrial will be eventually discovered, interpreted by one brilliant mind. And I was actually interested in another scenario. What if we ever received an extraterrestrial message, what if we released the data to the public? And what if the public was also part of the interpretation process? And how would that scenario play out? And very interestingly, linguist Sherry Wells Jensen in 2009 wrote a scenario which is really uncannily similar to what is happening actually as part of a sign in space. So to the question, how could we decode a message from extraterrestrials, Sherry Wells Jensen says, give it to every adult and every child on the planet who wants it. Toss it to the dolphins and whales. Show it to other primates. And we need to encourage people to express that data in all kinds of ways, in strings of ones and zeros, in grids, using different pitches of sound with color lights, played backward, interpreted as instructions for origami, expressed in beadwork or knotted threads, or in mosaics made of M and M's. And we should do this because we can have no idea how it was meant to be interpreted. The very worst thing we can do is leave it to professionals to fuss over. It will be a glorious all hands-on cacophony of thought and conjecture. And this is brilliant. It's really what has been happening as we release the data of this simulated extraterrestrial message that we received from Mars in May 2023 to the public domain. And the public has been trying to interpret this message primarily on the Discord, but also just sending messages through the project website and or through the project's social media. So we have received many interpretations. Before stepping into that part of the project, I would like to briefly describe how this global project evolved. We had several stages. So this started during early 2019. I started bringing together several collaborators from the Italian Institute of Radio Astronomy and other partners. So we started with a very simple test in collaboration with a satellite company called The Orbit. And they agreed to carry a test using one of their satellites, which is orbiting Earth at 500 kilometer altitude. So on 30 July 2021, we had the first test during which this satellite transmitted towards Earth the Arecibo message. The Arecibo message, you might know, is a very iconic message that Frank Drake, American astronomer Frank Drake, designed and sent into space during the early 70s using the Arecibo radio telescope. And this message was the first intentional attempt to communicate with an extraterrestrial intelligence. And this is why we use this message in this test. The question was, would we be able to interpret this message if we were to receive it through our radio telescopes? And we haven't tried to decode it, but we've tried to receive this message. And for this test, we used the Sardinia Radio Telescope and the Medicina Radio Observatory. And this is the signal of the received Arecibo message at the two different facilities. So the signal was very strong and very easy to receive. Working on this project, I learned that although it might seem very trivial for a radio telescope to receive a signal from a satellite or a spacecraft, actually, I learned that this is not the case. These telescopes are very fine-tuned for certain kinds of research. And so we had to really work from the ground up to make sure that each telescope that was collaborating in the project could receive this the signal transmitted from the trace gas orbiter. So this process required about 2 years. For 2 years, we have been meeting, I've been hosting meetings between the scientists at the European Space Agency and the scientists at the various observatories to make this work possible. So stage 2 was crucial. I also spent time at the Green Bank Observatory thanks to the Baruch Bloomberg Fellowship, and we have been carrying some tests from March to May 2023 in view of the live events. So this is one of the tests we carried out in May with the Allen Telescope Array. As you can see, the yellow line is the signal coming from Mars received by the Allen Telescope Array successfully. So all tests went really well. And this is the same signal as received by the Medicina radio antenna. So completed the test after 2 years experiments. We were ready for the live event on 24 May 2023. And as part of the live event, we received the simulated extraterrestrial message transmitted by the Trace Gas Orbiter at the Allen Telescope Array, Medicina Radio Antenna, and Green Bank Telescope. And this was all streamed live, which I think is quite an innovative process for showing the visual art fields. And everything went really well. Also, there were interviews with some of the crucial collaborators in the project. And the recording is still available on the SETI Institute YouTube channel. When we announced this event, just a few days before it happened, some telescopes decide to direct their antennas towards the Trace Gas Orbiter. And some of them succeeded in receiving the signal, like the Raeghe station in Santa Maria, one of the Azores Islands, and the Bochum Radio Observatory in Germany. These are the two observatories that reported back to us, but there might be other antennas or amateur radio antennas that maybe received the signal from around the world. The live event was covered by a great international media and many media outlets reported on the project, including Wired, Scientific American, CNN, New York Times, and many, many more. And the media interest is still quite strong. So the project is still being covered by more media outlets as the decoding process continues. So thanks to some software we use, we saw that just during the first week after the launch of the project, the A Sign in Space reached more than 145 million people around the world through around 100 articles in various outlets. And also we had radio coverage, television coverage, so probably even more people. And the website has been visited from 175 countries up to this month. Why these numbers are so interesting is because for me, this event is a form of global theater. So I envision this event as a theatrical event that people could experience from all over the world without the need to go to an actual physical theater. But the event itself creates this imaginary scenario which many people from around the world were able to imagine and experience when we launched this project. So many people around the world ask themselves what would happen if we received an actual extraterrestrial message, and they could play this scenario in their head. So it's a form of virtual theater, and also a theater that can reach people from around the world and even beyond, because this project also involved artifacts from orbiting Mars. So it was really a form of cosmic theater. And the interface we created to communicate with the public were mostly a website and the Discord platform. So the website has been designed to facilitate the audience interaction. But first of all, I want to talk about Discord, because this is where the most interesting action is happening at the moment. So there are about almost 5,000 people who registered to decode the message on Discord. And so after the first week, citizen scientists, who are people from all walks of life, people from around the world, so different cultural background, they managed to extract the data of the message from the raw data of the radio signal. And this is really not a simple task at all. So these people really proved to be highly skilled and highly very well with really great skills in this ability, because it's not something that can be done very easily. So the fact that they only took 1 week to extract this message from the radio signal is actually quite remarkable, especially because they're not professional radio astronomers. So they extracted this data which is a series of zeros and tens, and they visualize this set of data into this image in black and white. So since the beginning of June 2023, people have been trying to interpret, further decode and interpret this image. So what do these data mean? What does this image mean? This is the question that people are still trying to tackle on Discord and beyond. So over the past few months, there have been hundreds of different interpretations on the Discord. They're all very, very interesting. There are some people who think that this series of white dots on the black background could be a star map, for example, the star map of the senders of this message. Some people transform this set of dots into origami. And some people thought that this could be a Braille language. Someone started also taking the message into the physical form, creating 3D objects, creating puzzles. Other people thought that this could be a Morse code. Someone thought that this could be the projection of how these extraterrestrials see us from far. So the light emission from our planet. Other people invented some mythological stories around this star map. So there has been really an incredible number of interpretations. And this is why I think, going back to the slide I showed earlier by Dr. Sherry Wells Jensen, somehow the scenario that she imagined really became really concrete in the play out of this project. At the moment, the Discord channel for a signing space is very, very crowded. So the way, the way I imagined people gathering on this platform was to have people interacting, collaborating with each other or working independently, all in the attempt to create meaning around this mysterious message. So my question was, how do we create meaning around something, around a concept? And I wanted to use a very radical scenario to show the process of meaning creation in a society. So the way humanity creates meaning, I think, is really interesting. It's a very fluid process, and meaning somehow never get crystallized. It's always in the process of changing according to society, to different cultures, and so on. So this is the process I really wanted to highlight. And the fact that we use the simulated extraterrestrial message, I think, highlights even more the fact that it might be very challenging to attribute a meaning to a potential extraterrestrial message. We simply would have to really question our anthropocentrism and our culture from its very foundation. So the community on Discord is a sort of micro society that is trying to give meaning to something without having any real reference point. And I think this is what makes this process so complicated. So they are now, sorry, I'm just getting this notice that the meeting will end in 10 minutes. So I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know
Okay.
what it means, because we have a premium membership on Zoom. But if it ends, we will restart the meeting. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know. So now the community on Discord diversified this interpretation greatly. So there has been many, they created various sub-channels. Some people are interpreting in various languages. Some people interpret in English, and so on. And also some people are getting together to summarize what has been created so far. So that there are now some leaders in the community that took in their hands the process of creating a database of all the various ideas that have been brainstormed. So this is really how, in a way, a micro-society works. This is how people try to make sense. They work together. They work individually. They try to organize, going back, going forward. Some people are going back to the very early steps of the process. So this is it's a very, very dynamic process. And they haven't found the so-called correct solution. So there have been many interpretations, but so far they have not found the meaning that we attributed to this extraterrestrial message. So a member of the Discord community also played around with some data sets, and he wanted to highlight some of the words that are most used in the interpretation chat of the channel. And also he quantified them with different kind of visuals. And also some participants on Discord are trying to really explore the cultural meaning of the project. And I especially find this very interesting from someone with a nickname, Dr. Mike. And this Discord user says, there is an article in February 2024 of Physics Today called SETI and Existential Projection. It is an interesting discussion of the history behind SETI. I thought the last sentence was an excellent summation. Just as Cold War era SETI motivated scientists to cooperate, the introspection that the field fosters might prove more successful at prompting global peacemaking than the actual discovery of an alien civilization. Let's hope the international cooperation of the Sign in Space project works the same way. So it's great that alongside the technical, mathematical, conceptual interpretation, there are also people trying to understand the process, so self-reflecting on what's happening on the platform. Besides all this interpretation happening on Discord, there are also people who interact through the website, for example, sending messages or sound recordings or drawings. And I especially find this interesting. So someone from Afghanistan sent me this message a few months ago. Who am I? What am I doing? I know nothing. I feel like working in the human intestine like a bacterium, and I know nothing about the existence of the human being. There is a chance that we are also bacteria and don't know anything about the deep knowledge of the universe. I hope any alien will listen to me and understand my language, because I'm speaking in a mixture of Urdu, Hindi, and English. What else can I say? I think I'm the weakest human who knows nothing. I know that I don't know anything, and I'm sad about it. And I'm sad because I'm fond of learning. I will never be able to understand the ultimate truth. I can only feel things based on perception, but will never reach the truth. And I thought this is quite symbolic of how we might feel if we ever received a message from an extraterrestrial civilization. We might feel just like a bacteria living inside a body that we'll never be able to understand, simply because this body is larger than ourselves. So our mind simply cannot encompass what is bigger than itself. So I thought this was really explaining very succinctly what our situation as human beings will be in relation to another civilization. So on the website, there are also tools which allow people from all age to interact, to send drawings about their own interpretation of the message or simply their perception of SETI or extraterrestrial intelligence in general. So we made this tool, which is very simple to use, so very user-friendly, and we received almost 900 drawings from all over the world, many different countries. The web designer has been trying to organize these signs that we received in several sections. So some of them resembles signatures, so very abstract signs, and some are written languages. Another thing that it's quite important to notice is that people who try to interact are, of course, writing and speaking in English. And for most people, English is not their first language. So it's really interesting to see how also human communication, when it comes to a global level, has to find also a common language. And this common language can be also an obstacle to communication. We also received several drawings that reminds of formulas and graphs. Some formulas are completely made up. Also some looking like stellar maps, or they are references to pop culture, or like also this one, for example. Some messages are a bit more complex. They tell some kind of stories, like this one, for example, and many more. So as I said, almost more than 850 drawings have been submitted so far. Okay, sorry, this was already duplicated. So besides this interaction with the public that happens through the website and on Discord, I also created an outreach program in collaboration with the SETI Institute. So these are a series of workshops that are hosted by renowned specialists in several fields related to SETI. And these specialists present perspectives of SETI that are least well known in Western culture. For example, this particular workshop was about the understanding of extraterrestrial intelligence from the perspective of Aboriginal Australians. Or this one was about extraterrestrial intelligence in Islamic thought. And for this event, we had many participants from many different countries. And also we had a perspective from Sherry Wells Jensen herself, and she described how a disability model could be an interesting model for a possible first contact scenario. And many others. So these workshops are still recorded on the YouTube channel of the SETI Institute. And the latest program we hosted was in collaboration with some artists and scientists in China who presented their also SETI related work. So the idea is really to cover the entire globe and try and show that SETI is not only a topic discussed in California or at most well-known facilities, but also it's discussed all around the world, wherever there are people, communities who ask the question, are we alone? That is already the start of some. What was the last thing you've heard me saying?
We hear you now. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, and you spoke about the workshop with Sherry and about the videos uploaded on the SETI Institute's YouTube.
Yes, okay. Okay, so I think we stopped at the same time as, okay, great. Yes, so Sherry Wells Jensen presented this workshop where she used the disability model as a social model for a possible first contact scenario. Also, we published a paper about this project in November 2023 on Acta Astronautica. So this paper covers the initial phases of the project, but because it is still ongoing, and especially because the decoding process is not complete yet, I think there will be more papers about this project. Also, it was shortlisted by the Lovis Award, which is a European award for best works on the internet. And it was also the winner of the Europlanet Prize for Public Engagement in 2023. So the next steps of this project. So I'm now hosting monthly meetings with the Discord community. If you are registered on Discord and if you join the channel, you're very welcome also to join these monthly meetings. Usually during these monthly meetings, there are people who present their decoding ideas. They get feedback from their peers. So it is I try to foster a collaborative approach. Also, the workshops are still ongoing. So as I said, we would like to present many perspectives on SETI from around the world. On the same time, we noticed that the community on Discord seems to be limited to people who are really into technology. So one of the questions is, how can we expand this community? How can we maybe create other communities that allow people from other fields to join the decoding and interpretation process? I will skip this one. Then we are thinking also of a press release after the first year since the project launch, to announce that after a year, the message has not been decoded yet. And also, one of my questions is, if we had experts in one room, for example, astronomers and other experts in the field of SETI, would they be more successful in decoding this message? So how much expertise play a role in the interpretation of a potential extraterrestrial message? And also, one of the plans is to make a book with the various interpretations and possibly have a Kickstarter campaign. So these are some of the ideas that we are contemplating for the next steps of the project. So to conclude, I think the question that is relevant maybe for you as students of astrobiology, or in general to SETI research, is what can be learned from a signing space in relation to a possible first contact scenario. I think it is maybe quite early to fully evaluate possible lessons for SETI scientists, but I think there are some interesting inputs from this project that might be useful for not just for SETI scientists, but for many other researchers, including artists and sociologists, anthropologists, and more. And maybe these researchers will use the great amount of material that has been produced on Discord for their research or inspiration. And just to finish, also, I want to just say that for me, the success of the project was not only receiving these awards that I mentioned, but mostly the fact that the community on Discord is really, really enthusiastic about this project. And some members of the Discord community offered to name one asteroid after me. So they made an application at the International Astronomical Union, and the IAU approved this application. So this was the most, for me, the most amazing recognition for this project that involved so many citizen scientists. So that's all, and thank you. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you for brilliantly introducing the project, Daniela. And are there any questions from the students?
Yeah, we also thank you from the Faculty of Science. And now for the discussion. So do you have some questions? Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be better. In any case, I can repeat it if you are not willing to come here, but if you are, just say it to the microphone, please.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is like, did you motivate people somehow to like decode the message? Did you like announce for any prize for the first one who decodes it, or was it just like curiosity of people? And the second one is, since it is not decoded yet, I wanted to ask like, how did you create it? Did you do it just by your like research group, or did you involve some extra experts in the field? And how long did it take? Thank you.
Thank you. These are great questions. So we actually, one of the plan was to have a prize for people who would find a message. One of the prize we thought could be visiting one of the radio telescopes that participated in the event. But actually, at the end, we decided not to make it competitive. So I was very keen on not emphasizing the competitiveness that can happen in these kind of platforms where, for example, there is a challenge and everyone jumps in to be the first to, for example, find a solution to a riddle or something like that. So I didn't want to emphasize this aspect. I wanted more to emphasize the aspect of possible collaboration and interaction of people among each other. And also the fact that the message is not decoded yet somehow transformed the process of decoding over time. So at the beginning, there were people who were really very eager to find a solution, and they went very far extracting the message from the signal. But at some point, they realized for the follow-up steps, individual work might not be ideal. So people are now realizing the limit of their knowledge, the limit of their own understanding. And these are people who had a brilliant career in the field of technology. And suddenly they realize that this is more challenging than anything they tackled in their job. So I think that the whole mood of the decoding process has changed into bringing people into a more self-reflective stage, if you like. So people are more prone to collaborate and support each other rather than compete with each other. I think I kind of forgot the other question. I'm sorry. Can you please say it again?
I remember whether you cooperated with some experts in the field when creating the message.
Yes, correct. Yeah, thank you. Yes, absolutely. So this was the most difficult part of making this project, was creating this simulated extraterrestrial message. Everything else was relatively easy. It was not difficult to bring this global team together. That was relatively easy, because everyone immediately felt very connected with the project. Everyone wanted to see this happen. So it was not complicated. But what was complicated was to create this simulated extraterrestrial message, because it meant that we had to imagine not to be human. So I brought together a team of brilliant researchers from philosophy, art, anthropology, law, very different fields, biology, and so on. So we really struggled. So we met for 2 years. The process lasted 2 years. There was a very strict deadline from ESA. And whereas all the other aspects of the project were going really smoothly, this was really difficult. So just a few months before the deadline, we didn't have a message at all. And and finally, a computer scientist helped us really solve this problem. So yeah, it really required a team of people also because for me this was about just about expressing an artistic idea, but also reflecting society of the 21st century. So I wanted this message to be really embedded in a society.
Mhm. Yeah. Was there any other point? No, okay. Okay, so some other questions? Yeah. Very much.
Hello.
Hi.
I would like to ask because when you first began the lecture, my immediate thought was, okay, so what are the results? Because I had already expected the message to be long, decoded. I thought that the process would take a couple of weeks at most, maybe, because my own experience would be that when you get a bunch of experts and nerdy people together, they will get to the results very quickly. Because when you concentrate sort of genius together, you get to the answer. So my question is, if you had any expectation like this.
Thank you. Yes, this is, of course, was part of the conversations we were having when we were creating the message. So at the end, I restricted the team from 10 people to 3 people. So I wanted just very few people to know about the content of the message. So eventually we became only 3, the core team. It's myself, a computer scientist called Giacomo Miceli, and a radio astronomer called Roy Smith. And we got together and we created this message at the end, inspired by all the brainstorming that there have been previously. So we, of course, guessed how long it will take for people to decode this. I wanted the message not to be too simple, so this was one of the requirements. Because if it was too simple, in 1 week or 2 weeks, we wouldn't have been able to squeeze the juice from the project. So I mobilitated the European Space Agency, all these observatories to reveal the process of knowledge making, of meaning making, and in 1 week or 2 weeks you don't extract the essence of this process. So I wanted this message to be slightly challenging. So some people, other people in the team said it will take 2 weeks. Someone said it's impossible to estimate how long it will take, but we could not quantify the time in the expectation that for revealing this message, because it really it can be relatively easy if you approach it in a certain way, or very challenging. But what is most challenging, as I said earlier, is the fact that there is no reference point. So when you have no reference point, it becomes very, very challenging. And I think this is what would happen if we receive the real extraterrestrial message, that we would not have reference points. Exhausted the few basic reference points, we will not know where to look.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, but I still think we can make a good guess that it will be easier for us humans to decode a message made by other humans that share our type of brain than a completely alien message. So in sort of way, it is kind of unsettling. It takes so long, because that means that even a harder message it's hardly tell if it will ever be decoded satisfyingly. Or what do you think about this?
I think it will. I don't know. I mean, I think this message was designed in a way to really emphasize this questioning that the radical shake that another civilization would bring if we were to get in contact with each other. So it will be really a cultural revolution for humans. So I wanted to emphasize that, but I think I don't know. I'm more interested in the process than in the solutions. So at this point, I'm not so interested in people who might find a solution, because I think the ideas that people have produced that are quite, some of them are really, really interesting. Somehow are what is fascinating me the most about this project, more than the final result, the eventual winner of the project. Yeah, I'm not sure if this answered your question, but I'm also very, it's for me as an artist, this is a bit of an unusual role, because this project is also evolving while we are all witnessing it. So I'm also taking a step back. I've been the artistic director of the project until it was released to the public. But now that it has been released to the public, it's taking its own shape. So the public is the main, the community is shaping the project. So this is really, really interesting. I'm also learning a lot from this community myself.
Yeah, definitely a fascinating project, and I'm looking forward to those publications you plan. For example, how fast did people approach the final answer, and all these things? So
I think, sorry, when the message will be found, there is another layer of conversation. So we are now talking about the second stage of decoding. The community has extracted this message from the raw data. Now they're trying to decode it, but after it will be decoded, there will be another stage which will be even more inclusive, because at that point it will be a matter of interpreting this message. So it's a bit like a work of art. There are many possible interpretations to a work of art. So at that point, the conversation will become even more interdisciplinary and intercultural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Yeah, it will be best here, because we have a Jabra microphone just placed here on the table. So
I hope this question wouldn't spoil too many things, so I'm just gonna ask him. Did you have a specific alien species in mind, or was it supposed to be as generic and broad in to be made by any civilization? Did you make a backstory for this of the sender with their civilization and evolution, stuff like that, or was it supposed to be as broad as possible?
Well, there are many answers to this question. First of all, well, I initiated this whole idea, and somehow I was leading the thought process for creating this message. So I have my layer of expectation and interpretation. But if you asked the other people who were involved in the design of this message, I think they would give you a completely different answer. For me, the inspiration for this message creation was based on some science fiction literature I read over the years, and also looking at many films, etc. But so I think it was quite hard to imagine to be an extraterrestrial. On one hand, we have many examples from science fiction of all kinds, from animation to films to books, etc. So it's not that there is any shortage of potential images of extraterrestrials. It's just that to imagine imagine something that was none of these fictional characters or species that have been already created. So creating something that could add, imagining a species that could you kind of also add something to the conversation. And also, I think I was trying to lead the process of creating this message, thinking about the motivation of why would anyone would decide to send this message. So is it to communicate or is it for other reasons? So why would anybody bother to send such a message? Or are they communicating with us, or are they communicating with someone else? Or so the why and the what was the two main questions. And so you have to think of this process as if we were actors trying to interpret someone else, like other beings. So we had to kind of we kind of had to leave this imaginary experience for the time of the message creation process.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yeah. I can. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah. Mám jenom že mě by zajímalo, jestli rozumí předpokládat, že vlastně zpráva bude tak složená, protože jako ty civilizace se budou snažit a to věc nejjednodušší vlastně. Jsme to interpretovali. Tak jenom. The question from my colleague is whether it is correct to estimate that the message will in fact be very complicated. Maybe when they think or know they are so different from other possible intelligent species, they will make their messages very simple. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that our concept of simple and difficult is very human. We have no idea what simple might mean to another civilization, or we have no idea of what these concepts. These are very human concepts. So we don't know. It might be simple or difficult for us. It might be exactly the opposite for them, or they might not have such a concept at all. So
yeah, it is somehow connected to another question we encountered in the last year's seminar when we have here Denis Sultan Haliev, and he has his concept of dark, let's say dark biosemiotics, and he kind of speculates whether the fundamental difference among possible intelligent species in the universe does not completely like make any meaningful communication, maybe beyond some mathematics or physics, whether it doesn't make it completely impossible because we don't share the context in which we speak to each other, you know, and it makes the interpretation of any message very, very complicated.
Yes, I agree. I think first, earlier I mentioned the Arecibo message. And I think this is the message that scientists think that we might be receiving. So a message that will focus on universal things like chemical structures or other possibly universal formula. This is, of course, possible. It is possible that another civilization might have exactly the same mindset. But this is a bit of a perfect picture. So the picture that some scientists imagined is, of course, the ideal picture from their point of view. But this is why I'm saying that once you consume all these reference point. If you test these reference points and you realize that they're not taking you anywhere, so what's next? And next you're faced with with no reference point at all, and that is where the challenges start. So if we were to receive a message that conformed to these perfect pictures, then we might find it very easily to decode it. But if this message doesn't conform to those parameters, then I think we might have great problems in communicating with another civilization.
Okay, any other questions? So, nothing you'd like to ask? I have some of myself, so. Okay, I will continue, and maybe they will join me. I was asking myself a question, especially when you show us that citation that we should show the alien message to everyone, to the whales and dolphins and all the public and so on. Is it really so risk-free? Because, you know, even in that Contact, the novel and the film you mentioned, it contains basically a plan for some mechanism or a structure. And, you know, if you receive from someone in a space a plan for a structure, it raises questions, what it's for and so on. So what do you think?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I agree completely with you. I think I'm not sure how likely it will be that the data will be intentionally made public by scientists if we ever received an extraterrestrial message. Probably the data will not be made public, but probably they will be leaked. So in a real contact scenario, I think the data will become extremely precious, maybe even commercially, they might have even a huge commercial value. But someone somewhere might leak this data. They might be distributed on blockchain or whatever, so or other channels. They might be corrupted. At some point people will not know anymore which one is the original data or which one is the corrupted data. So I think the data is going to be the central part of an eventual contact scenario. Interestingly, I think at least the science fiction novels or the films I came across don't address this topic of the data. This is quite a recent topic. Even 10 years ago, we didn't know how important data would have become. And I think this project really revealed that data will be crucial for the discovery of a potential extraterrestrial signal.
Yeah, in the end, it might be most useful to set up some form of international consortium because it will be the only thing to make each other coordinated and preclude any possible chaos. But I still ask myself a question whether the content of the message itself cannot be somehow dangerous, because it is quite a strong presupposition that the message itself is only some harmless saying of hello to other civilization. We cannot know that, or do you think so?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we just don't know. There is this great science fiction book, His Master's Voice by Stanislaw Lem, which in fact really addresses this question. So there are two different interpretations for this message. One interpretation is that it's a formula for creating life, and the other interpretation is that it's a formula for a deadly weapon. So of course, it can be anything. We have no idea. And in fact, this is why I completely see the reason why scientists might want to prevent these data to be made public. On the other hand, given the kind of society we live in, I think that is not realistic. And even the announcement of the discovery of an extraterrestrial signal will be immediately caught up by the media. So there won't be much time to do any political mediation or collaboration, or which is actually what scientists would preferably hope for. So there is a sort of a series of regulations that explain how we should behave in case of a potential discovery of an extraterrestrial signal. But possibly all these steps will be completely bypassed by the media.
Yeah, yeah. Also, you mentioned his master's voice. It will probably be also hard to tell what the message is at all, whether it is intentional, unintentional, meant for us, meant for anyone else, and so on. So maybe this also applies to your message, but hard to tell at this moment. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
What I think is interesting about that novel is that eventually the scientists give up, and if I remember correctly, I think they pretend that they never received anything. So that is also a possibility.
Yeah, I think they even, in the end, they even return to theories that it is not a product of an intelligent civilization at all. And
Exactly.
it makes sense, yeah.
Yes.
We also have this stupid timer, so if it comes to 0, I will start it again. So I'm very sorry about this, and I will investigate what's the problem for the next time, and sorry about that. Do you have any other ideas? Something you'd like to ask? For Tomáš?
Well, I can add my own point. I personally consider it quite likely that people may disinterpret this message, or be it your message or an actual extraterrestrial message, to find some solution that was not intended by the sender, because we humans are great in finding order in chaos, in finding meaning in something which lacks meaning. So I would think that some misinterpretation, maybe unintentional or even intentional, may arise, and in case of actual extraterrestrial message, it might be a real problem.
Absolutely, yes. I think at some point, this also makes me question, if we look at other documents from the past, for example, ancient documents that have been decoded only after thousands of years. Some of them are still in the process of being decoded, and sometimes the interpretation turns out to be completely wrong, and researchers have to start from scratch again. So it's possible that a message from another civilization might cause all these multiple interpretations that will change with the changes of our culture as well. So this is why I think this process of meaning making is so interesting to me, because I think what I want to highlight also is that the meaning that we attribute to things, to phenomena, and even to scientific events, they are always being reinterpreted. Even in science, nothing is fixed. Even the most reliable formulas eventually are perfected or challenged or re-questioned or and so on and so forth. So and I think this just adds complexity to the possibility of communicating with other species, because we keep projecting ourselves onto anything we do, and we we see, and other species as well on Earth. I mean, we can only communicate with them through our own lenses. So it's, of course, very, very complex.
Mhm.
Maybe if there's still time for one question, I would like to ask, how likely do you think it is that an actual extraterrestrial message would be an algorithm? It would be some sort of program created to respond in real time instead of, doing back and forth across dozens of light years or more?
Yes, this will, of course, depend on the level of civilization of these other species. So I think if we receive the radio signal, we can only assume that at some point this civilization had the radio technologies. So that would be the only thing in common that we could probably assume to be the case. Other than that, we have no idea of if they're biological species, if they are already post-biological phase, if they communicate exactly just, or they just think in algorithms. Maybe they completely bypassed all the thinking that we do with our own biological brain, which is mostly based on this flow of consciousness, etc. Yes, we just don't know. This is why we might completely misinterpret what they sent. I think now of course, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, so it's really a big topic in our culture. So we tend to interpret everything through that lens of artificial intelligence. But yeah, I don't know. I think this was, of course, something that we discussed as part of the process of creating the message. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
I have maybe one thing to add to your question, but it is possible that the meeting will be stopped in the middle of my talk, so I will repeat it after that.
Okay.
But I think it would be quite unsettling if we receive a program